Agenda item 1, apologies for absence, please.
Councillor Mann, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Item 2, declarations of interest. If anyone has any declarations of interest that they are aware of at this moment, please make them. Otherwise, do so as we reach items on the agenda. Are there any declarations of interest? Councillor Smith?
Budget and policy, item 261. I'm a member of the Lions, which I mentioned in there.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Councillor Hutton?
And I also declared an interest at the budget and policy.
Thank you very much, Councillor Johnson.
My apologies, Mr. Mayor. I've just been pointed out to me that we have further apologies from Councillors Crawford and Lewis.
Thank you. Agenda item 3, minutes of the council meeting of the 18th of October. Are you happy that it's an accurate record of what took place?
Yeah,
thank you. Seconder, please. Thank you. And all in favour, please show. Thank you. Item 4, public representations and questions. I understand there are none.
That's correct.
In which case, moving on to items requiring a decision. Item 5, general finance, schedule of payments, and B, budget monitoring report. Does anyone have any questions, on the assumption that any detailed questions have been submitted prior to the meeting? Okay, so those are received. And then there is a little C informally here for information relating to correspondence received from the external auditor, which I understood raised no matters of concern. Is that correct, Town Clerk?
That's correct. We received a clean bill of health in relation to the last financial year, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Item 6, Budget and Policy Committee. Councillor Smith.
Mr. Mayor, at Budget and Policy, I took the sections of Minute 259 as it is now. I took the recommendations one by one. Is it your wish to do the same this time?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mayor, I rise to present the minutes of Budget and Policy Committee held on Tuesday the 8th of November in this Council chamber. 256, apologies for absence. 257, confirmation of minutes. 258, declarations of interest. 259, budget preparation and precept setting. Mr. Mayor, what this minute reflects is the prepared budget considered at the meeting. Not the final version, but the one to which the schedule of fees and charges will be added at the next meeting of Budget and Policy, leading to the Council setting a budget and precept for 2023-24 at its January meeting. This meeting, Mr. Mayor, reflects the acceptance of the committee of the 41 pages of financial data which accompanied the officer's report to the meeting. Members will be aware from the information provided prior to this meeting that within the rolling capital programme, 3 priority projects are identified. Of course, we're all aware that in conforming with the directions of Council, these projects can only be initiated when all of the funds needed are in place. As an authority, we need to identify any grant funding available to support the priority projects and get them over the line. This Council has previously indicated the level of funds contributed to the rolling capital programme every year. The recommendation before us tonight includes temporary measures until we are able to return to our desired fund allocation. And finally, sir, with regard to some confusion which might arise from Roman 2 in this minute, The recommendation within that, it is possible, because if the money feeding into the rolling capital programme is from a revenue source, market fees for example, this can be used for revenue or capital expenditure. If, however, the funds are from the sale of an asset, for instance this building, those funds would be restricted to the use for capital expenditure. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I move minute 259. And I will move to the first recommendation within that. Recommendation little 1. Do you want me to read it out, or?
I think for the benefit of anyone who may be watching on live stream, it would be helpful, please.
Okay, Mr. Mayor. The submitted draft council budget for 2023-24 enclosed as prepared, incorporating adjustments arising from previous deliberations of council, incorporating the fixed asset register and rolling capital programme, providing for any surpluses available at year end and not otherwise identified being carried forward into that rolling capital programme to support priority works to public buildings and premises. Agreement that for the 2023-24 financial year, Council's contribution to the rolling capital programme be resourced on a temporary basis from any increase arising from positive changes in the underlying council tax base. Therefore, and for future years, any increase in precept arising from increases in council tax base being applied to the rolling capital programme until such time as the council is able to return to an annual allocation of not less than £60,000 per annum. I move that recommendation, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. So you've read the recommendation and heard it read out. Do we have a seconder, please? Thank you very much. Does anyone wish to ask any questions or debate this recommendation? In which case, all in favour, please show.
Carried.
Thank you.
Roman 2 and 259. In accordance with the minute number 73C, the proposed transfer of £65,585 from the RCP to meet the unbudgeted revenue budget shortfall in the current financial year. Mr. Mayor, I move.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Thank you. And does anyone wish to question or debate this? All in favour, please show.
Carried.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Roman 3 and 259. Authorise the purchase of a ride-on mower in a sum not exceeding £5,000. This will be from the Vehicle Maintenance Reserve, with a corresponding adjustment in funds previously allocated for vehicle maintenance. I move, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Seconder, please. All in favour, please show.
Carried.
And Roman 4, same subject to consideration of a schedule of proposed fees and charges at the next meeting of Budget Policy. I move, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And a seconder, please. And all in favour, please show.
Carried.
Thank you very much.
I move on, Mr. Mayor, to item 260. And there's a recommendation that Tavistock Town Council adopt a start time of 6:30 p.m. for all standing committee and council meetings with effect from the 2023-24 civic year. I move.
Thank you. And again, do we have a seconder? Thank you very much. And just a reminder that the final decision on the start time of meetings will be taken by the new council when it takes up its position in May of next year. That said, Councillor Hutton, please.
Can I just... I was in favour of this at the budget meeting, 6:30, but things have changed in the last couple of weeks in that we have two of our youngest councillors have resigned. Both have resigned because they've said they basically just cannot cope with doing everything. one of the things that I'm very conscious of is maybe this 6:30 is actually still too early. Maybe this 6:30 should be 7:30. I am, as you all know, I'm very, very keen that we have elections in a few months, and I want to encourage some new people to come into Tavistock Council. I particularly want some younger people to come into Tavistock Council. And I'm just very, very conscious that anything we can do to encourage that must be a good thing. Now, I'm very mindful of what you said, that the council can change it, but before we have the council in May, we've got to get people to volunteer to be councillors. And I just wonder if this 6:30 itself may be enough for some people to say, that's too early, I've got kids to get to bed, etc. So I would just like it to be discussed a little bit more as to whether actually 6:30 is the right time. I would propose actually make it 7:30.
Does anyone else wish to comment on this? Councillor Ewings, please.
Having been on the council for many years, decades, when Councillor Mrs Johnson and myself joined, we had 6:30 for properties, 7:30 for F&GP, the equivalent of budget and policy now. And if you were a chair or vice chair, deputy mayor, whatever, chairs and vice sometimes used to always sit on both, so one could report on the other, and the mayor and deputy mayor usually attended both meetings. Some of those finance meetings and council itself used to start at 7 o'clock. That's right, isn't it, Anne? Sometimes you would be sat in here at gone 9 o'clock, 9:30, 10 o'clock. And I'm sure I know that in particular our general manager remembers those days. Our officers have worked all day and they can still be sat in a council chamber at 10 o'clock at night and then have to drive home, and they don't all live on our doorstep. You know, some of our staff have a half an hour drive home, and I just think moving it to 7:30 is just not fair on people. It's not fair on those who've worked all day and who haven't managed, you know, they come straight here after a meeting, you know, after a full day's work, and they haven't had any dinner yet. It's a very difficult one, and after quite a few years and changes around and things like that, and when we got rid of the Properties and Finance and General Purposes Committee, it came together that meetings would be at 6:30. And that seemed to work quite well until the beginning of this council, when I felt we were pushed into moving to 5:30. I've never been a fan of it. It is not fair, particularly if you've got children, that you're trying to get them sorted and, you know, getting to bed. That extra hour can allow people to have had something to eat, or if they're still coming straight here from work, that actually they won't be home as late. Now, you know, we have to think of people's welfare, but we also have a duty of care to our staff and what is good for them. Because they don't get paid to attend a staff meeting like that, a council meeting like this. They're supposed to take in toil. Well, if you have them here till 10 o'clock at night, and I'm not sure some of them would be willing to stay that long, you know, then they've got more time of the day that they're entitled to take the time off. So it's, when do you want your officers to be working, and what is fair on councillors and the staff? And I'll leave it all with you.
Thank you, Councillor Ewing. Councillor Squire.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a point of confirmation that this would not apply to consultative meetings. I understand that the Pannier Market Consultative Meeting meets at 5, and I understand that is an appropriate time for most of its attendees. So just to assure people that that does not get applied to that same meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Councillor Smith.
Yeah, I think the reason for bringing it forward at the present point in time about the start time meetings was that like Councillor Hutton said, we do want to pull as many more young people or other people into the council as we possibly can. But to do that, we need to advertise and try and get stuff out there saying, come and join Tavistock Town Council. The 6:30 was to enable us to get some documentation prepared, get everything out there, get the advertising out there, and certainly if the majority of those elected attended the annual meeting and felt that 6:30 was not a good time, they could then change that at the very first meeting that they attend. I just don't see it like that.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Yes, Councillor Williamson.
The risk of prolonging. I've done 2 terms, coming to the end of my second and last term. I found it personally quite convenient as I work in the first term for meetings to be at 6:30. Even if I'd finished work, I could have a cup of tea and read my papers at the last safe moment. At 5:30 time, I work still, and our life has become more complicated because we're now looking after grandchildren, because a lot of people do at our age. So for me, 5:30 is inconvenient. I've just come back from time away. I've just got here at the last safe moment. But I did have time over my weekend off to read the papers, so I would just say 6:30 would be great if you went back to that.
Okay, thank you. Yes, please.
Sorry, just one quick intervention. I have 2 young children. Everything that everyone said is perfectly legitimate and great. I'll just say that every family is an individual one. They will have their individual circumstances. So, I mean, for 7:30, my kids are being put to bed. For an earlier meeting, it's more convenient for me. But everyone's individual. So, I would say, this on paper shows that the council can be flexible for new people to join the council. And when the new council sits, then, depending on the individuals there, they can then decide what's best for everyone.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce, and welcome to your first meeting of full council. Okay, so we have a recommendation. It has been proposed, it's been seconded, and now it's been debated. We'll go to a vote. All those in favour, please show.
That is carried.
Thank you very much.
Minute 261, Goose Fair 2022. Recommendation that Tavistock Town Council endorse the payment of £2,000 to Tavistock Lions Club in recognition of their support in delivering park and ride sites, £1,000 Yelverton, £1,000 between Galworthy, Whitchurch Down. This was at the 2022 Tavistock Goose Fair. Mr Mayor, I move that recommendation.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder, please? Yes, Councillor Fay. Does anybody wish to debate? All in favour, please show.
Carried.
Minute 262, item circulated for information only. The committee received and noted a briefing note of the Works Manager in respect of the above. I move.
Thank you, Councillor Smith.
In fact, move the minutes, sir, because the next item is the exclusion of public and press.
Indeed. Okay, thank you. So we move on to item 7, Development, Management and Licensing Committee. Councillor Barry Smith.
Right. Mr Mayor, I rise to present the Development, Management and Licensing Committee held at the Chamber, Drake Road, on Tuesday the 1st of November. 246, apologies for absence. 247, confirmation of minutes. 248, declarations of interest. 249, Dartmoor National Park. 250, Town Council, Town Planning Issues. 251, General Correspondence. 252, the Neighbourhood Development Plan. 253, urgent business brought forward at the discretion of the Chairman. 254, planning decisions and applications. Little a is planning decisions and little b is new planning applications. And the recommendation is that the views of the Town Council, as listed in Appendix B, be passed to the local planning authority for consideration.
Thank you very much.
I pass that.
Yes, thank you very much. So the recommendation has been moved. Do we have a seconder, please? Okay. And all in favour, please show. Thank you very much. Just before we leave DMNL, I've been asked to make you aware that there are vacancies for town councillors on the neighbourhood development plans steering group following the resignation of Councillor Ellis. The next meeting of the steering group is on December the 7th at 6:30 p.m. in the robing room in the Guildhall, and any members who might have an interest in the steering group are invited to attend that meeting to get a better idea of what's taking place. So if you could bear that in mind, please, if you do have an interest in the development plan, you might like to go along to that meeting. Okay, thank you. So, item 8, electoral arrangements. The elections are not that far away, but this item has been brought to a head following the resignation of 2 of our members. Town Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, because we are less than 6 months from an election, there is no requirement now to hold a by-election in the meantime, and it falls to the council to decide in relation to these or indeed any other vacancies which might arise as to whether or not it wishes to co-opt. The suggestion in the report is that unless the membership falls by in excess of 25% at this stage, we don't proceed with co-options, because we're now at a time frame where by the time someone is familiarised, really it's going to be into the May elections in any event, and of course the time and resource that it takes to familiarise someone is likely not to be as well spent, because we don't have access to the training courses which are normally available on an ongoing basis, because most of those come to an end as we run towards an election. So there's a recommendation there for members to consider in relation to the treatment of casual vacancies, and then the second recommendation is inviting the council to consider whether or not it wishes to appoint a deputy mayor for the remainder of this council term. As members may recall, the 1972 Act provides that a council may appoint a vice chairman, or in our case a deputy mayor. It's not an obligation, so that's a matter for the council to decide how it wishes to proceed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Moody.
It's just a point of information which I'd like to raise up. I'll let people discuss what's on the agenda at the moment, and then if it's okay at the end I can give you a point of information.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Members, do you wish to ask questions or make comments, please? Councillor Ewing and then Councillor Hutton.
I have to say that I'm deeply saddened for Tavistock Town Council that we have lost 2 of our youngest members. We have been trying to encourage younger members to join for many, many years, and I really thought that with some councillors that are on this council now, that we had younger members coming through. And to lose 2 of them in the space of, a few days a week is very, very sad. And I think it's a huge loss to the council. I think it is a loss to the mindset of this council, and that younger people always bring a view. And that is really important. I know I'm still one of the youngest here, but, I am getting to that age where, it will be as I felt when I started, for inverted commas, the quote, where we all say councillors are a bunch of grey-haired old men. And I feel now that, my time of being here for 20 years is gradually, I am becoming one of those people, yet I'm still one of the younger members. And that actually is not good. To have many councillors in their late 60s, 70s and up the road, practically knocking on the door of their 80s, is not good for society and communities as a whole. Younger people bring more diverse views, they've got younger children, and yes, some have grandchildren now, so that does help to be in touch with younger people, what their aspirations are, what they would like to see. And I felt that Councillor Eperon and Councillor Ellis could bring those views to this council. And I am very, very sad that we have lost two councillors who had both only joined this term and have left before it finishes. And they have their reasons, and I respect those reasons, but it is still sad for the town as a whole. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Mrs Youngs. I agree with you entirely. I greatly regret losing the two members. I think they both had something special to bring to council. They both were thoughtful and conscientious, and I thank them, if they happen to be listening, for their contributions to the work of the council during their time with us, and greatly regret losing them. Councillor Hutton, please.
Certainly, I completely agree with the clerk's view here that we don't do anything to appoint new councillors in the next 6 months. It seems totally unnecessary, and they'll be here by the time we start again. So I completely agree with that. I do think we need a deputy mayor. I think, though I accept that the mayor does nearly everything, I think it's useful that somebody else is actually just around to know what's going on, so that it's not just the mayor that knows everything with the officers, that there is a deputy. I hate to think that, you would drop dead tonight, but if you did, your wife might be sad as well, but it's something certainly that it would be something, we'd be stuck if there wasn't obviously somebody who could even say thank you very much. So I think we should have a deputy. I'm also conscious that there are occasional events that it's quite useful to have a deputy. I know I'm stewarding for the Stannery Brass Lions concert in a couple of weeks' time, and we were told at the meeting that neither the mayor or the deputy was coming because they were unavailable. That was before we knew that Councillor Ellis was finishing. So there are occasions, rare occasions, when a deputy actually is quite useful. So I think that we should think seriously about having a deputy, even if it's only for a few months.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to say anything on this one? No? My own view is that we should seek another deputy for the remainder of this period. And I hope that members will consider, if you agree, if we pass the recommendation, I hope that members will consider putting themselves forward for the remainder of the time. I think it's not mega urgent. We know what the commitments are between now and January, and they're covered. But I've no idea what's going to come through the door from then onwards. So that's my view. So members, do you wish to debate this any further forward?
Have you somebody moved the recommendation?
That would be very nice.
Yeah. I'm happy to move the recommendation. I do believe we should be seeking one for seeking a deputy mayor for the January meeting, at the January meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. So there are actually two parts of the recommendation: that we don't seek to excuse me, to fill the casual vacancies, and secondly, that we do seek to fill the role of deputy mayor. So that's proposed and seconded. All in favour? Thank you very much. And Councillor Moody, I think you wanted to give a point of information.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to raise the issue that I've come across some information from Parliament that that earlier this year legislation was passed for voters' identification certificates, and if someone doesn't have a photo ID, passport or a driving licence, they will have to apply to the local authority, which is West Devon, for a certificate. Apparently at this point in time, I've raised the point with the returning officer for clarification. At the moment it is still not set in stone yet. They're talking about the government having a programme of education advertising to alert people of it. But I just think it's now that we're sort of talking about the upcoming May elections, it looks as if this identification requirement will apply to the May elections as well. The returning officer wasn't quite sure, but there is some online, the Houses of Parliament library information, which is, and I'm just wondering, just to make sure that the town clerk is up to speed with everything that's going on with that, and so he can keep all members informed as things progress. And if I find out any further information, I'll circulate information to all members by email. Okay?
Thank you very much. Moving on. Items circulated for information only. Cornwall and West Devon Mining Landscape World Heritage Site Awards. Here is one. This is for the Tavistock Guildhall, Tavistock, designed by Gillespie Yunny Architects for Tavistock Town Council and Tavistock Heritage Trust, received the 2022 World Heritage Site Award for the Best Conservation of an Historic Building. And that's the Cornwall and West Devon Mining Landscape World Heritage Site Awards. I think that's a remarkable achievement, and I think on your behalf we congratulate the architects, our officers and staff, the board of the Tavistock Heritage Trust, and everyone else involved in this very special achievement. Congratulations to all of you. Councillor Smith.
Mr. Mayor, being there to receive that award, it made me realise that when you see the whole range of buildings that are awarded this prestigious award, you realise that you're at the top level somewhere with the work that you've done in the building in your own town, because that covered, I think everyone else was Cornwall, was in Cornwall, and this was the only one that was over the border in Devon. But the quality of some of the projects was absolutely amazing, and we were up there amongst them.
Yes, thank you. Councillor Mrs Ewings.
I know I said it slightly under my breath, but I really do think we should thank RM Builders as well, because we wouldn't have got the work done if we didn't have them.
Agreed.
Mr. Mayor, just to add, RM Builders were present at the, to receive the award.
Good. Okay. So, moving on a little again. 10, service reports. General Manager's report. You've all received the report in your bundle. Do you have any questions to put to the General Manager, please? General Manager, would you wish to say a word or two about the watch being maintained on Whitchurch Down?
I'll defer to the town clerk on that one.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, this is really just to draw to members' attention that we have received some representations from members of the public in connection with concerns about potential but not yet undertaken development activities. Therefore, we are just maintaining a watch in relation to those areas of land in our ownership. I am aware that contact has been made with both Dartmoor National Park Authority, West Devon Borough Council, and potentially other partners by residents in that area. So we will maintain a view in relation to land in the council's ownership, and no doubt those other authorities, by virtue of the contacts that have been made, will be keeping an eye just to make sure that if development does happen, it happens in accordance with the requisite requirements and regulations for that site.
Councillor Mrs Ewings.
May I just ask a question, Mr Town Clerk? Has Councillor Mark Renders been notified? Because I think that sort of little bit that comes down and comes down Church Hill is actually in the Dartmoor, Forest, Princetown. Mark does cover because he comes all the way down. Yes, and so he's actually the ward member for West Devon for that, and you have the bonus that he sits on the park.
I'm aware that there is at least one member of the National Park Authority who is aware of it from feedback, who was a previous member of this council. We haven't notified him. Our concerns are naturally with the land which is in our ownership and the rights and responsibilities that we have in relation to that. But I do believe that the contacts made by the community have been quite extensive. But it might be, if you're happy to mention it to him just to make sure he's aware of it, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Okay. So we received the report of the General Manager. 10, Roman 2, Pannier Market. Any questions relating to the Pannier Market? Councillor Hutton.
We're always told about the coach drivers initiative. What is it?
They come in.
I won't defer on this one. Basically, it's a scheme that we pay into where around the Torbay area, etc., they put pamphlets within all the coach drivers or all in all the coaches. They actually do tours which actually sort of like link up with different areas, and part of the actual scheme then to incentivise coach drivers to come to the Pannier Market if they've got a certain number of travellers on their coach. I think the threshold is 30. The coach driver himself receives a payment as part of the scheme, so it's an incentive to actually get them to come to Tavistock, visit the town centre and visit other areas around the town centre as well. It's something we... Sorry?
Who pays?
We've got a budget ourselves in relation to the coach drivers incentive, and we work in partnership with BID, so they actually pay a proportion as well.
Okay, so happy to receive the Pannier Market report? Yep. 10, Roman 3, Works Department report. Yes, Councillor Mrs Johnson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I need to declare an interest at this point. I see the Works Department are helping with the transportation of trestles for the Christmas Tree Festival, and I am the chairman of the St Eustatius, Pranza St Eustatius, which is organising that activity.
Okay, thank you. Any issues relating to the Works Department report? Councillor Hutton.
Is one of our employees who obviously broke their foot at work, has that been sorted out, and do we know what went wrong?
Town Clerk. General Manager.
That is something that we are currently having ongoing discussions with that employee around the incident. Basically it was a slip from one of our works vehicles, which has obviously led to a broken bone in his foot and a period signed off 6 to 8 weeks, which we are monitoring and obviously liaising with that individual on an ongoing basis.
Okay, thank you. So happy to receive the Works Department report. Good. And then 10 Roman 4, Town Hall and Butchers Hall report. Received? Noted. Thank you. Okay, so moving on to item 11, Finance and Other Matters, to receive the report of the Assistant to the Town Clerk. Do you have any questions for the Assistant to the Town Clerk, please? Received. Report of the West Devon Borough Council, Mrs Ewings. Does anyone have any questions for Councillor Mrs Ewings, please?
Can you make any further comment on the the redevelopment at Spring Hill, what moves would make to make it look better, or do you know what might be in hand to make it appear more acceptable while we're waiting?
To remove 2 mattresses, which I deliberately drove that way today to make sure, and the overgrowth is just horrible. It is unsightly. Personally, I would rather hope there was somebody who actually wanted to take the project on, but that is proving to be really difficult. I think mainly because the project is on the main road, and you know, you've got to be working on that main road. It, you know, will have traffic lights quite a while, and I think it's a big responsibility to take on something. It's on the corner of the bend. It's all sorts of reasons, and you know, contracts and everything else in this time, the monies don't always tally up.
And once people get to know that the traffic lights are in place, they will be using another route to get to the other side of Tavistock. That road.
It's the ones that are coming to Launceston and from Launceston, etc. We've got to think right back that way. But I totally agree with you. It's going to be a very difficult one.
Okay, thank you. Received? The report of the Devon County Councillor. Unfortunately, Councillor Sellis is unable to be with us this evening and has sent her apologies. I remind you that these reports are for information rather than for debate, but there is within this advance notice, if you like, of a potential controversial measure, that being the imposition of on-street car parking charges by Devon County Council. So I suggest that at this stage we note that this might be coming our way, but it's not really for debate at this stage. Yes, Councillor Mrs Johnson, please.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, I really feel I need to speak about this. I'm absolutely dismayed to see that the Devon County Council are yet again thinking of charging for on-street car parking at Tavistock. I think the retail shops and businesses in the town, along with everybody else in the rest of the country, is finding it extremely difficult at the moment, and to start charging for parking on streets in Tavistock is going to be such a bad idea. I know last time they proposed this idea, they had a load of parking meters over in their depot at Newton Abbot, which they were ready to bring over to put them out straight away. The final paragraph on the first page of the report says the suggestion would be 1 hour parking and the first half hour would be free. Well, I would suggest that however long a period they give people, that they make the first hour free, so at least it's equivalent to what it is at the moment, and no restrictions. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure many members will feel strongly about this.
If I may,
yes, please.
What you said, Mayor, the bid is, keep me aware of this through the council's report, and as a director of the bid, proxy from the council, I was asked to come along this evening and just mention similar concern to Councillor Johnson. I think that probably suffices at the moment.
Thank you. Okay, so we received that report. To receive such communications or reports as may be submitted by the town mayor, I have none. And item 13, I have no urgent matters to bring before you either. In which case, we move to item 14. So, thank you. So we now move to part 2, exclusion of the press and the public. Thank you very much.